Take one. So we're sitting in my studio at my house in Los Angeles, and we're having a little conversation about what it takes to communicate on camera. How do you share your message authentically in such a way that it moves, and inspires the audience? And direct this content. And having it not only make a difference in the world, but also having it translate to revenue for you. How do I communicate the value of my product? All of that ultimately boils down to your ability to connect with the audience out there. And what everyone's craving is authenticity. So why should you listen to me? I have sat down face to face with the biggest Hollywood actors in the world. Academy Award winning, Emmy Award winning, Grammy Award winning actors, musicians, heads of state, politicians, spiritual leaders, best-selling authors. Innovate again. If I can do it for them, and if I've been paid millions of dollars, I promise you that I can help you do the same thing. So get ready, because it's going to be a wild ride. One of my great passions is to share the knowledge, wisdom, and success that I have spent 40 years earning. If you're ready to step it up and play an even bigger game, apply now.
Hello and welcome to Innovation Culture Coding Live. Today is an extra special episode with special guests, and I will be talking way less than I will be talking normally. So I'm welcoming the special guests today. Let me welcome Demian, Steve, and MaryKay. You guys are still muted, so I will just quickly unmute you and let you introduce yourself. So let's start with Demian. Say hello to everyone who is on the live stream.
Hello, everyone on the live stream and everyone that's going to be watching the recording. My name's Demian Lichtenstein. I am a Hollywood feature film, television, documentary, commercial, music video, and video game director and producer. And one of my greatest passions is sharing and helping to teach the art of storytelling. And currently, with my extraordinary team, we do this through our group directors. And today I'm excited to be working with our primary educational system called Unleash the Story Within. I live in Malibu, California. I'm married and I have two amazing young boys, and currently most of my time is dedicated to head coaching their youth soccer team.
That's awesome. Let's head over to the lady in the room, in the live stream, not the room. MaryKay, hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you here today on the live stream, and for those of you watching the recording. My name is MaryKay Mullally, and I am a founding director of The Director's Way and also one of our head coaches here. And I hail from Jamaica, but I live in San Diego, California.
Awesome. Stephen.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Steve Brooks. Hello. I'm Steve Brooks. I'm the pop-up retail expert. I'm a Brit living in the US, in Chicago. I'm passionate about helping businesses and helping people. So welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the recording. I'm excited to be working with Demian and MaryKay, and I want to say thank you to Jens for pulling this all together, and looking forward to what comes next.
Yes, thank you very much. And already a couple of comments coming in. What an awesome crew. Thank you very much. So everyone on the live stream out there, please shoot us comments. Let us know from where you're listening, where you're watching this. If you watch it on YouTube, if you watch it on Facebook, we are always interested in knowing who is there, where you come from, where you listen and watch this. And of course, we will do a very, very big Q&A in the end. So if you stay to the end, you can ask questions in an ongoing base. I will put them up in the end, and we will take some time to answer the questions. In between, we will not answer questions, and I will not feature any comments, because we want to get really the best value out of the kind of live coaching session. So having said that, I hand over to MaryKay, because she will do a special introduction. MaryKay, off you go.
Okay, thank you, Jens. So again, my name is MaryKay Mullally, and I'm a founding director and senior head coach here at The Director's Way. So before we get started, I would love to tell you a little bit about what we do. So we help successful entrepreneurs connect with their audience and gain more customers without gimmicks through our story extraction process. Now, your story is not just about you. It's actually a combination of three things: your personal story, your business story, and your client story. Now, in our 4-week course, Unleash the Story Within, we explore each of these as they relate to experiences in your life and as they relate to the origins of both you and your customers' businesses. In the course, we have specific tool sets and methods that we use to mine each of these stories and put them together in a way that emotionally connects you with your audience, and also your business with your audience. So why is this important? Well, because what sets you apart from every other entrepreneur is your story. And people buy from you before they buy your product or service. Now, consumers buy from people that they know, like, and trust. I'm sure you've heard that many times. The fastest way for your audience to get to know you, like you, and trust you is through your story. And your story is unique to you. The problem is most entrepreneurs don't know how to tell their story in a way that creates an emotional connection to their audience and allows them to communicate the value of their product or service in the most powerful way. Many entrepreneurs think that they're telling a story by showcasing their results and the results of their clients through testimonials and such, or by providing information and data on the features and benefits of their product or service. And here's the thing: these are facts, and facts do not sell, stories do. Now, you may have heard this many, many times. Facts tell, stories sell, and it is true. Stories sell because stories evoke emotion as they pull back the curtain and allow your audience to instantly feel something and instantly relate to you, to know who you are. Now, when your audience lets their guard down, they will more readily listen to your message. And that's the power of being able to tell your story in an emotionally connected way. In Unleash the Story Within, we guide you through a process of extracting your story, and in the process, shifting your paradigm about yourself. So you become crystal clear about the importance of what you do, because only you can do what you do, and the difference you make in the world. We believe it's as important for you to have clarity on your story as it is to shift your paradigm about who you are, and quiet the voices, if you will, that you may have about your worth and value that may be stopping you from making the biggest difference and the biggest impact that you can. Now, we also teach you how to be in front of the camera, so you can tell your story in a way that creates a connection with your audience and also allows you to communicate the value of your product such that customers buy and you can increase your sales revenue ultimately. You'll unleash the story within with a script of your story that you can immediately use in any number of applications. A promotional video, a TED Talk, a book, a screenplay, or any application where your objective is to connect with a wider audience. So today, we're going to focus on the personal story and how it relates to an existing business. You're going to actually have an experience of the work we do through one person, Steve, who's going to go through the process of extracting his personal story. Now, this is also the zone of genius of Demian. So I'll now turn it over to you, Demian, for the personal story extraction with Stephen.
Thank you, MaryKay, and Stephen. Thank you for being here, and also thank you for your courage. The story extraction process is a deep dive and a courageous one into not only your past, but also who you are and how that led you to where you are today. We're only going to be doing a portion of that process today. So we'll be working on the personal story, and very specifically, we'll be doing what we could call first 3 seminal events. Seminal events are events in our lives that have a tremendous and profound impact. Now, it's also important up front to know that that's not always traumatic and dramatic. Sometimes it's very simple. Mine was a bit dramatic and traumatic. We were moving. I was 6 years old, and we were moving from one house to a different state in the United States, from New York to Vermont. We stopped at like a big Thanksgiving party, and the older boys riding their bicycles on the back dirt roads and kind of cliff trails. I had a new bicycle I didn't know how to use very well, and I wanted to ride with the big boys, and the result of that, I tumbled off a cliff and broke my little 6-year-old body in half, and ended up in the hospital for 3 months, and traction and broken legs and bones and dislocated back and concussions. And so as a 6-year-old child who should be out running around in the world, I was recovering from a near fatal accident. This dramatically shifted my life from one track I was on to another, including having to learn how to walk again as a little kid. So that was mine. At the same time, it could be as simple as that you were at the fair with your parent, and you wanted a red balloon, and your parents said, let's tie it to your wrist so you don't lose it. And you said, no, I'm a big boy, I want to hold on to my balloon. And they said, if you lose it and you cry, we're not going to get you another one, and we're going to leave the fair. You lost it, you started crying, and they pulled you out of the fair. And from then on, you've spent your life holding on to things just a little too tightly, right? So it doesn't have to be huge trauma and drama. It could be as simple as losing your balloon at the fair, but it shifts the trajectory of your life. So the first seminal event is titled "Something's Wrong." Like, something happened, there's something wrong here. And this event typically happens between the ages of 5 and 10. It could be 4, it could be 3, it could be 11, but it's typically in that early seminal event time in your life. So Steve, diving right in, what's the event that pops into your mind right from the top?
There are two that spring to mind instantly. The first one being, and I don't remember this. This is just what I've been told from my parents. Obviously, I was born a very small child. I was very ill as a baby. Spent a large amount of time in hospital before I came home. And that I don't remember. I don't have any kind of real in touch feelings about that. The next one that I do remember really clearly relates to being at what we call in the UK infant school, and I was 5, and my closest friend, my best friend that I'd gone to school with, started school with, that day, called Melanie Carter, after a few months stopped coming to school. And literally, you know, I think the first couple of days, I thought she was ill or just unwell, but it turns out that they moved away. They moved house, and nobody told me. And I literally remember panicking that I'd lost this friend, and nobody had. I had to find out for myself. So that had a tremendously upsetting impact on me, and I think that's why I kind of hold on to relationships, value them, but there is a part of me, if I'm being very blunt, that realizes that nothing lasts forever, and somebody could, just like Melanie Carter did, just disappear without a trace.
Got it. If you see me looking down, by the way, I'm not texting, I'm taking notes. I appreciate that. So here you are, you're a 5-year-old boy at what we call infant school in the UK. And you've got, you know, your best friend. Her name is Melanie. And then you guys are playing, enjoying life, and life, you know, regardless of all the other stresses the parents have for it's fun, and you know, you've made a friend, and at that point, you know, a friend is everything, and it's the person you're going to hang on to for life. And then poof, one day she just disappears.
Yeah.
And nobody actually thinks, you know, we all, especially those of us that are parents, and I have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and fully aware of the, you know, the depth of emotion and connection that they have. But we forget, you know, as parents and teachers, the depth of emotion and connection that children have and are making. And then your best friend is ripped away and you have no idea what's happened. First, you believe maybe she was sick, and then all of a sudden, you know, you discover later, but that she moved away. But in that moment of not knowing, their complete and total panic set in. And what you can see at this moment of panic setting into this 5-year-old little boy who's lost his best friend, you know, your relationship, your first girlfriend, you can call it whatever you want, all of a sudden gone. Then the fragility of life, the fragility of relationships, the depth of not knowing something that could just be here and gone the next day, right? And that kind of sets in. Now you don't necessarily interpret that as this 5-year-old boy, but you do know that something's wrong. And one of the things that happens, especially with little kids and errors, is that we end up interpreting to some degree, what did I do wrong? What did I do? You know, why didn't he say goodbye to me? What happened? And that's how we start to self-internalize. That there's not only something wrong here, but I did something bad. And then that shifts our perspective on life. And your perspective shift right there at 5 years old was that nothing's permanent. It's all, you know, impermanent. In other words, said simply, and we'll get back to it, it's kind of a pop-up life. Things pop up, things go away. Things pop up, things go away. And all of a sudden we discover that later in life that Steve Brooks is the pop-up king. Let's move to the second event. Thank you, Steve. That was emotional. Made me think of one of my old friends. All right. Number 2. So the second one typically happens in teenage years, right? Teenage being, you know, that kind of like let's call it 12 to 17. It's typically in that arena. You know, in America, you're in high school. What do they call it in the UK?
Secondary school.
Secondary
Secondary school.
It's typically in secondary school. And the distinction, the seminal event, is titled "I Don't Belong Here." I don't belong here. Now, that not belonging can be any number of things. It could be you're being bullied in school, right? One of mine was definitely I was being bullied. I very distinctly remember being like one of the Jewish kids in a very high-end sports kind of all not Jewish kid school country. And I got made fun of a lot because I like paint and draw and take photographs and do that stuff more than I like play sports and other things. And I distinctly remember some of the older boys holding my head in the toilet, and me having this thought like, wow, I'm going to drown in this toilet, but also it's humiliating and all the other stuff. And I ran away. I literally ran away. Like they had to send out search parties, call my mother, call the police, all kinds of stuff, because I don't belong here, right? This is not where I belong. And then that also set up very kind of distinct mindset for me. So the question to you again is, I don't belong here. And because it's top of mind for me, I'm also going to point something out. At least in the United States, we have an incredible pandemic of teenage suicide. Little children killing themselves, literally. I have two, adult parent friends, two fathers, personal friends whose children killed themselves. Right? This is a pandemic, and one of the distinctions here, and this is why it's such a powerful distinction. Most of them are dealing with a function or a mindset of I don't belong here, not wanted. I'm not welcomed in this family. I'm not a part of this school. I'm not a part of this group or community. And this can be true even for the star athlete whose job is to be a high performance, kid and like carry, the school to the championship. You can imagine the stress and the pressure on that, teenage kid. So the question then for you is, what was that moment in time for you where you kind of distinctly remember this, like, I don't belong here. This is not where I belong.
There were so many times. The one key one was around 11. I as I explained, I was quite ill as a child, and went through my early life being a sickly child. When I was 11, I was admitted to hospital. I'd had incredibly bad stomach pains for a week or so, and it wasn't diagnosed as appendix or anything like that. And so it got to the stage where I was taken to hospital in an ambulance. I don't actually remember my parents coming with me in the ambulance, although I think they followed in a car, and was literally, by the time I got to hospital, was taken into surgery where I had a pretty major operation. I actually have a scar that's about 17 inches long that goes from around about the midpoint of my stomach all the way down almost to the top of my groin. And I'd picked up some kind of infection in my intestine, which had gone bad, got gangrenous, exploded, or whatever it had done. And so I had part of my intestine removed, and I actually found out much later in life, even part of my bowel. But and that was the event. The not being there was that I didn't go to a children's ward. I actually went to a male adult ward, and hospitals in the 70s in the United Kingdom, National Health Service, were depressing places, in spite of the people that were there dispensing kindness and taking care. It was for an 11-year-old boy, a very scary place. You know, older men in literally the last moments of their, last days of their lives. And you know, medicine, thank God, has advanced so much in terms of how we view care, family care, and how much that aids recovery. But back then, you know, visiting was limited to a few short hours in the day, in the afternoon, and a few short hours at night. My parents had 2 other children and were working, and so, you know, one could come, but and so on. And although there were a couple of people that kind of, I don't know, took me under their wing, if you like. Some of the guys that were there would come and sit and talk to me, or taught me how to play cards. One of them actually taught me how to play backgammon, I remember. I knew I didn't belong there, and it was a scary place. I had a tube down my throat. I had a catheter fitted. I had this horrendous scar on my body, which when I was about 40, I went to see a surgeon for something else, and he said to me, he said that he'd been a surgeon for like 30 odd years and was possibly the worst scar he had ever seen, given what I told him I'd had. And so that scar is a constant reminder for me of that time. For a very, very long time after that, I wouldn't take off my shirt if we went to the beach or were on holidays. If I did, I would actually carry a towel over my arm, kind of across my arm, so I didn't have to show it. It scarred me both physically and mentally for a very, very long time. And the older I got, the less, maybe the less I worried about it. I don't know, or the more I ignored it, or I got better at ignoring it. But it's a constant reminder of 3 weeks in hospital, another 3 or 4 weeks at home recovering, at home, and was incredibly traumatic.
Steve, thank you for going so deep and sharing that with us. As a boy who spent a significant amount of time in hospital, and I carry the scars and the pain of that for life, I deeply relate to you and what you're saying. Completely physically, mentally, emotionally, and you don't even know it at the time as a young boy, and spiritually exhausting, right? So here you are, you're this 11-year-old boy, you have these traumatic, deep, like physical pain in your body. And initially they can't figure out what it is. And you end up in the hospital, and they do this, we'll just call it what it is. Kind of, we can call it life-saving, but slightly botched and terrible surgery, as they kind of gouge into your body. And now you're dealing with the deep physical trauma of your body literally being sliced open as a child. And whether you're passed out or not, the body is experiencing and feeling all of that, what's happening to it. And then pieces of you are literally being cut out of your body. And then here you are, stitched up and wheeled into the adult male ward of a rather scary place that's for a kid, kind of straight out of a nightmare. And then here you are in the place surrounded by these older, and quite a few of them dying and on their last legs, older men. So you're experiencing, hearing, seeing, smelling, feeling. It's very visceral, in essence, death and pain and anguish and misery all around you. and your parents can't even come in and soothe you and protect you, but for a few precious hours a day. So let's call it 22 of the 24 hours you're in this frightened space as a child, right? And now you're in, as come out of it, here's you're literally scarred for life. You're scarred for life physically. You're hiding those scars, way into adulthood. So you're scarred emotionally, and and at some level, as I said before, there's this, there's a spiritual scarring of life, like how. And I'm not saying you interpreted it or said it this way or did this way, but it's like, how did God let this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? But without any question, in this frightening space, the experience is, I don't belong here. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And every part of you is aching to get out and to not be locked into this place. This scary hospital, this, again, I relate that experience. I was a lot luckier. I was in the children's ward, and I had super cute candy stripers. There's the game, play with me every day and bring me toys and talk to me, cute little squeaky voices. And so that is a definite and intense experience, and thank you for sharing it. So let's.
Can I just? There is, because we're talking about this, and I'm thinking, it's kind of whizzing around in my head. That one of the things that I think were so impactful was that you would, like, you could talk to somebody one day, and if you were unfortunate enough to kind of wake up in the night, and believe, with people in hospitals, open wards and noises and that, a good night's sleep wasn't really on the cards most nights. To then see a curtain drawn around somebody, and then to wake up in the morning and then just there to be an empty bed. Was so frightening. It was so frightening, and actually, just talking to you now and relating that back, that was almost like another Melanie Carter moment, right? That you're talking to somebody and then they're gone.
Yep.
And there was no explanation. They didn't say goodbye, so you had no understanding of it. And I can feel the emotion of that right now. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. You carry on.
I feel your emotion. And by the way, if you remember, up front, I thanked you for your courage. I thank you again. Okay, let's move on. All right, so number 3. This one is called I'm on my own. On my own. So this refers to, here's a simple explanation for it, and it comes at different times for different people. Typically, it comes in the just after graduating from university or college for most people. And what I mean by that is, like, suddenly you're not at home, you're not in the dorm rooms, maybe you've got an apartment or you're sharing one with a friend. You have to get a job, and suddenly you have to pay rent, you have to pay, the electric bill. You're like, no one's coming to save you. Now, this can be a traumatic event, where, like, you're a child and there's a tragedy and your parents are both killed in a car crash, and like, whoa, and you're 15 and like, boom, you're on your own, right? Doesn't matter who shows up. It's like suddenly it's you the world, right? So it can happen in early or in that level, but also, again, it can be as simple as one day, they slide the rent check under your door and you realize you don't have enough money to pay for it. No one's going to pay for it, right? So there was a point in your life where you distinctly remember it. You were maybe sitting on a park bench, sipping a coffee, and you're like, wow, it's just me in the world. Or maybe, it was the loss of a parent. But when was that moment for you when you distinctly remember, like, wow, I'm on my own? Hashtag, no one's coming to save me.
Probably not until my late 40s, actually. So my mother had passed away. We fell out a couple of years before she died. She fell out with all of us, all of my brothers, at some point in our lives, where we literally had she had no communication with us whatsoever. Although my father would sneakily make sure that we were always okay. So the last 2 years, of her life, we didn't speak, and then she passed away, which made the next 5 years of my relationship with my father so important. I finally convinced him to get a mobile phone, and he would text me every morning and every evening, and we would speak every single day. And I was back then I was traveling a lot. I was I've been really lucky. I've worked in so many different countries around the world, and so I was traveling a lot. But it didn't matter where I was; he would always let me know he was okay in the mornings, and would say goodnight. And then I get a call from one of my brothers to say, "Listen, Dad's not well. We've been trying to. He hadn't told me. I hadn't seen him for a couple of months. Dad's not well. Would you come down and talk to him, because we think he should see a doctor?" And so I went down, and my youngest brother and my older brother were like 15, 20 minutes away from him, and he wouldn't listen to him. And I walked through the door, and within 20 minutes, we're in the car going to the doctors. A few months later, he passed away. And I remember the doctors saying to me, he knows he's not going to be here for much longer. So don't feel you can't talk to him about that, because we've spoken to him and so on, and he's just trying to be strong for you, and so on. And then he actually died at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and we weren't there. And going to the hospital, and back in a hospital again, right? Stood there with my brothers, and that was the time I knew I was on my own. Even and I have a caveat to that, and I'm so sorry for being so emotional about this.
Apologize for
no. So, well, look, but the caveat to that is that I have two of the most amazing brothers, and have been blessed with those. But Dad was always blunt. I mean, he was totally amazed that people paid me to do what I do. I mean, neither him nor Mum ever really understood what I did, or why I did it even. And so standing around that bed, in spite of the love of my brothers, I knew I was now on my own. And there isn't a day go by that I don't think about him. I still have his mobile phone, and pictures of him I carry everywhere with me. My relationship with my mother was fairly complex. When I bought my first company, I had to fly to Scotland to purchase this business that I'd been working in, and was missing my flight to get back to London to go for a family meal. So, and this is long before the days of mobile phones, and so I had to ring home and explain to my mother that I was still in Edinburgh, and I hadn't said anything about it because I wanted this to be like a huge surprise to them both. And was like, well, why are you in Edinburgh? What are you doing there? And I said, well, I'm buying retail location. That was the name of the company. I'm buying retail location off of Roy. And there was complete silence. I mean, you could feel the icicles, coming up the line from London. And she said to me, who are you to be buying a company? And when I do workshops and when I talk about motivation and stuff, that's the thing that motivates me every bloody day. The fact that that I carved out who I am. We all want to control the narrative of our own life, but I carved out the narrative of mine in terms of I was buying this company and was going to take it on to be incredibly successful. But and so I tell you that so you have context about this complex relationship with my mother, whereas my relationship with my father was totally different, and those last 5 years were some of the best times I ever had with him. And that so hopefully that answers your question. It's a bit round the houses. I'm sorry.
No, it answers it. What was your mom's name?
Beryl, Beryl, a very unusual name actually. Now, you don't hear many Beryls at all.
No.
Yes. Roy.
Mm. Got it. Well, there is a. I know there have been many books written on the subject, but there is a conversation that a man doesn't really truly become a man or discover that he's a man until he experiences the passing of his father. Right? This is another deep subject that you can literally weeks, if not years, hacking. But I get it. So I get that there is a very complicated and an intense relationship with Beryl. I understand with your brothers and 3 boys. I God bless her. That's a lot to manage, especially with the fear and trauma she had around your own agonizing experience. At some point, to survive, I'm sure. And though I'm not going to psychologically assess your mom, I'm sure at some point she had to turn on all her emotion because she couldn't handle the pain and the fear around potential death. But regardless of that, so it was complicated. And, you could even look at Beryl, right? Who are you to be buying a company, right? Something that you talk about now, about not only carving out your own narrative, which is a lot of what the Director's Way is about, and even what we're doing now. It's, and we'll talk about that at the end a little bit. But also, I look at Beryl not just as your mom, but as giving you kind of the deep, kick in the arse. It was as the deep, like who do you think you are? And then you're like, well, I'm going to show you who I am, right? So it's like
precisely.
She was a deep motivating factor on top of the complication. But also still as a son and a mom, and the break in communication, and then the passing without the reconciliation, at least in person or verbally, is difficult and a lot to carry at some point. And I got how that transmuted into the next 5 years with Roy being like, not just super important, but the demand and the consistent daily connection with this amazing person that you were deeply in love with and committed to being with and experiencing life, and that you had that for those last 5 years. And even though in the waning moments of his life and those final hours when he passed alone, I can assure you he passed proud of his sons, right? And especially of the connection and the relationship he had with you. And even that with having two amazing brothers. What are their names? The younger and the older?
Robert is my oldest brother. Russell is my youngest brother. Both were in the Royal Navy, served their country. My oldest brother is a Falklands War hero, there was a few days there during the Falklands crisis where we actually thought he might have died when his ship was bombed and sank in the Falkland Islands, but thank God that wasn't the case.
Yes, thank God. So you've had this, and then you had this clear moment in life came. So you're standing there at the bed, your father's passed, you have your brothers, Roy's no longer with you in bodily form, and you still have his mobile phone, but the calls aren't, the texts aren't coming anymore, at least from that arena, the physical realm of life. And then finally it just ingrained, dawns on you that you're completely and totally on your own. Like, that's it. Yeah, you got your brothers, but it's just you in the world now. I got it. So in this moment, I'm actually going to jump into the fourth event, which I usually don't do, but get there. We'll do it quickly. The fourth seminal event is called Create or Die. Right? We all have this moment in our life when it's like, okay, I either create something or I just wither away and die. Right? We all have it in our moment in our business where maybe things aren't going well in the marriage. Maybe the business is starting to, suffer, implode, or some of you, maybe COVID has completely wiped out your business. COVID wiped out 2 of my businesses, physical production businesses, just gone. Businesses that I've had for over a decade, right? So it happens, right? It's happened.
Absolutely.
And so in those moments, we have this fourth seminal event, and we create or we die. It's very, very simple. So what was your immediate create or die moment? What did you go and create? Because clearly you did.
Yeah. So I bought retail location. Somebody else subsequently joined me in the business, and we grew that business really, really quickly. I mean, it was phenomenal. And big life lesson. We went and bought another company that kind of had links to what we were doing. It was a curtain manufacturing company, believe it or not. And unbeknown to me, some things were going on behind my back in terms of my then business partner wanting to take control of the business and so on. And so purchasing this other company was a good vehicle for him to say, listen, how about I buy you out? and you take this other business because, you know, ultimately it would be you that would lead it and so on. Not being one to want to outstay my welcome, in spite of buying that company and starting it, I thought it would be a good challenge. So I sold my interest in that business, took the controlling interest in the new company that we bought, and set off on a path with that. Big life learning lesson. One, you know what you know what you don't know, be known for what you know. And I didn't know anything about manufacturing. I knew about the retailing side of that, because they made custom made curtains that they were selling in pop-up shops in Europe. But I didn't know about the manufacturing side. And within 12 months, that business had to shut down. And so now I've lost that company that set me on the road. I've now lost the business that I guess ego got the better of me. I thought I could make a huge success. And so I went back to what I knew, which was pop-up retailing, and created a business literally from a laptop and a telephone. And subsequently grew that business, because if that business didn't work, I couldn't, you know, I had no money coming in. I'd had to literally had nothing. And so started a business that I subsequently sold, still operates today in the United Kingdom, business called Access Point. But that was my create or die moment. If I don't get off my arse and do something about this, and I'll be honest, Damian, you know, during the last 2-3 months of that experience with the curtain business, I buried my head in the sand, thinking that it would change, it would get better. I have this phrase, you know, hope is not a strategy, right? Hope is not a strategy. And so and there were a number of other factors, but you know, I take full responsibility for the failure of it. But so if I hadn't done that, I would have. I don't know what I would have done. I really don't know what I would have done. And so that would be my moment.
Great. Thank you. And today, you know, we might say at some fundamental level that you're the pop retailing king. Write the books on it. You speak lectures and symposiums around the world. You explain to people, even I've been educated in that retailing is far dead. It's actually growing and expanding even in the midst of a global pandemic.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's kind of shifting back to its original roots, the souks and the bazaars and the stalls, and you know, where did it all begin with, and people, you know, and that still happens all over the world. So thank you. And what we'll do is we'll bring this part of the story extraction to a close. This was your personal story. In Unleash the Story, then with the Director's Way, we don't just do the personal story, then we dive into your business story. And we look through that as well. Then we dive into your client story, right? And as you get all three of these, and you can kind of see very clearly the depth of going into beginning with your personal story. But there's deep depth within the business story, and there's depth within the client story as well. And when you have all three of these together, you're then able to use these to create inside a very structured process, actual narrative. And I loved what you said, controlling the narrative, right? Controlling the narrative. At the Director's Way, one of our, you know, clear precepts or distinctions that we come from is that you are the writer, the producer, and the star of your own epic life story, your own narrative. The big issue is that for most people, they have forgotten that they're the director. literally, that if you are the one who must be sitting in the director's chair of your life to control that life narrative and to create it the way that you want. The simplest way for people that are watching and listening to discover who's actually sitting in your director's chair, which is the seat of power in your life story, is just ask yourself who you're pissed off at. You pissed off at your mommy right now? Okay, well, then guess what? She's the one sitting in the chair.
Sure.
So going back to and just quickly reviewing here, when I look at your business, right, pop-up retailing, it was formed so clearly to me, this is part of it, in very early stages. You had this event, right? Your best friend, Melanie Carter, suddenly disappeared. Right? And the impermanence of it all became embedded in you at a very early age. Like things come in, things go out. Things pop in, things pop out. You know, there you are. You should be in the children's ward, but there you are in the adult male ward, and people are popping in and people are popping out. They're there one day, they pull the curtain, they're gone the next. And not only that, it's being driven into you on a cellular level because you're literally being cut open and pieces removed and other things put back together, and you're being reconstructed. But not just your physical body, but your emotional and your mental body is being deeply affected here. And you had to learn how to deal with fear and great risk, you know, and being, the impermanence of it all at a very early age. And then even moving all through that into, understanding the complicated relationship with your mom. But importantly, at this point, the deeper relationship with Roy. And you had two things that were happening there. One, you were getting the motivating kick in the butt from mom. Who do you think you are? Right. And from your dad, even though son literally have no idea why people pay you to do this, you develop a very deep and long lasting relationship that I say actually sustains. I say that those last 5 years with your dad and the depth of those 5 years is what really allowed you to move powerfully into the world and to become, even greater at what you do today. Right. So for me, when I look at your business and pop-up retailing, like, you've got a very, very powerful story. It's very emotional. I was moved to tears multiple times by your story. I also feel very connected to Steve. Like I'm, it's like I want to give you a big bear hug, and just tell you how proud I am of you. But that, part of what we're talking about and the power of your own story, and as you would take what we've done here and more, and you craft that into the depth of your narrative, into the depth of your communications, your speaking, all the times you have on stage, where you're not just talking about pop-up retailing, but you're inspiring people to discover the depth of their own gifts, their own magnificence, their own power, and to see that even how these deep and traumatic and seminal events in their lives actually propel and move them to and can be transmuted into the very foundations of your and their success. And that's a big part of what our commitment inside the Director's Way is about helping others unleash the power of their own story so that it inspires others to do the same and lift humanity. Right? We have a deeper commitment, a deeper goal here. It's not just, you could say simply, unleash the power of your own story and skyrocket your business and your profits. Okay, great, make more money. But really, what we're talking about is how you can take the depth and the power of your own story, and then how you can use that not just to increase the extraordinary, value of yourself and your product, but also to inspire other people to do the same, and everybody to understand that their story is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel honored, really, like honored that you were willing to share at that level the depth of your story with us. That's I would watch that movie. I would read and be inspired by that book. I would be driven to do certain things, deeper connect with my mother, a deeper connection with my father, listening to your TED Talk, right? I would be, inspired to create, going into the children's wards and bringing them joy and laughter, like, I get it, right? So there's so much in your story. And so I just want to thank you, and I just want to honor you for sharing it with us. And, and then I would like to end with asking you what your experience of going through the first part of the story extraction was like for you.
Firstly, thank you for your kind words. You said at the outset about having courage. I came into this completely open-minded, completely prepared to leave nothing on the table in terms of, to be honest and share the answers to any question that you presented me, and that's how I started this whole journey this morning. I'm one of these people, I think, that people, I know Steve. Nobody really knows me. The things that I've actually shared today, there are probably a handful of people on the planet that know that stuff. Now there's one or two more. And because I've actually seen that, Demian, as weakness. That losing a friend as a young child. Well, okay, you were a kid. That doesn't matter. Going through the stuff in hospitals. Well, you could file that under shit happens. Okay, falling out with my mother. We all fell out with her, so it was just my time. It just happened to be the wrong time for me. But actually, you got right inside me today. And I agree. I don't know how, but we just kind of, you tapped into something within me that I actually felt comfortable and safe telling you these things today, sharing these things, and if that's your gift, it's a fabulous one. It really is, and so listen. I'm just excited about carrying on, and just seeing where this goes. So again, a huge thank you to Jens. But can I say, Demian, I think we might have the start of a lovely friendship here for whatever reason, regardless of what this was all about. But I'm truly grateful to you. Truly grateful.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. I totally felt that. Well, thank you, everyone who got me crying, Steve.
I'm so sorry, me too.
Thank everyone who has watched this story extraction call with Steve and I. I will turn this over to MaryKay, and she can talk to you all a little bit more about what's possible here. But what I want everybody to know, and again, thank you, Jens, for this opportunity, and for Steve. Sometimes people say to me, either when I'm directing our half hour, like a documentary, promotional videos, or even when doing these calls or having these type of story interactions, it's like one person said to me recently, yeah, I know you do a million of these. This must be boring to you. And the truth is, it's not ever, because I've never heard that story, right? Literally your story, Steve. I've never heard that story. It's one of a kind, one out of billions, personal, seminal event storyline. And it has deep resonance and impact on me as a person. It inspires me. Obviously, I feel emotionally connected to you. And because of that, I trust you. Right. And that's a big part of what we're doing is we're reestablishing trust with each other on a global level. And when we can authentically share the depth of our stories with each other, then we can, reconnect. It's like that. I agree, Steve. It's the start of beautiful friendship. And that's what we need. Is we need more friendships across the world. We need more friendships in business, right? We need more friendships in family and life to just really be supporting and holding each other up during these quite dramatic times. We're all characters in a pretty epic, dramatic, moving, emotional disaster love story. It's all unfolding, and we're right in the middle of it, all this together. And so I just, again, I want to thank you so much. Truly grateful for this opportunity. And with that, I will turn it over to my extraordinary big business partner and friend, and just all around super badass lady, MaryKay.
Wow, thank you so much, Demian and Stephen. You got me all teary as well. So yeah, really extraordinary. And Jens, thank you so much for allowing us to participate on the show today. And we hope everyone watching gained value by experiencing the work that Demian does and the work that Demian did with Stephen. I know I certainly did. So we would love to have the opportunity to work with each of you on extracting your story and, or creating a very powerful digital asset that you can use in your, like a promotional video in your marketing. Based on what you've seen today, what we'd like to invite you to do is to sign up for a free call with us, in which we will look to see and support you in determining if this program would be a good fit for you and where you are in your business and what you're up to in the world. To sign up for that call, please go to our website, directorsway.com. I'm sure Jens will have this posted in all the locations, directorsway.com, and go ahead and just book a free call with us there. You can also email me directly at MaryKay@directorsway.com. MaryKay@directorsway.com. So we so appreciate your time and we look forward to connecting with you. And with that, Jens, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for this awesome show. It's really, really, really moving me as well. Stephen, thank you very much for being so open, being vulnerable in an open way, which is specifically in the business world, it's not happening so often. And I think this stories and this ways of engagement is something that we, like Demian said, that's what we all need to work on. How do we lift humanity? How do we get truly to who we are, and using that in a private life, of course, but as well in a business context, which is often just about like, hey, who is the strongest, rah. I think we need all go back to who are we and how do we get to ourselves and work with that, being open, being vulnerable, and like you said, making friendships. Yeah, for everyone who is watching the show and is still in the live stream, if you have questions, please bring them in. We have had one question from Blair before. You have mentioned it already a little bit, but Demian, if you could just elaborate a little bit on the question from Blair.
Jens, I'm sorry. Before we get into Blair's question, I did want to just say one more thing. We would like to offer you, Stephen, gift you with a seat in the upcoming Unleash the Story Within, just to say thank you for your courage.
No, you're very kind. Thank you. I
and additionally, we would love to offer everyone who books a call and we determine is a fit for us a 25% discount. So just that.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. So, wait, you're on mute?
Thank you.
Now you're.
Great. So from Blair, please let us know how our story ties into the director's way. Okay. A few things. First, in the director's way, we have training modules, if you will. Okay. And the first one is called Unleash the Story Within. And we lead you in a Zoom group settings along you work in dyads, partnerships, and group settings, and you go to work on through our process, back end portal, through the scripting process that's all laid out for you. It's kind of fill in the blanks. We have you clearly distinguish your story, your personal story, your business story, and your client story. And out of that, you leave, the director's way, unleash the story within an actual script, a physical script that you can use for anything in your life. Like if you make a transformational, course, if you want to create a sales video or promotional video, if you want to do a feature-length film or documentary, if you want to write a book, a business book, or a story-driven narrative book, if you want to do TED Talks or whatever, you will have the core basis already laid out for you. And that's how the story itself interacts with the director's way, which is that we support you in unleashing that story, unlocking that story, crafting and writing that story out. And also we support you in your niche statement, which clearly defines yourself and your business in essence within a elevated pitch, if you will. And we also lead you through creating, even if you've done a lot or zero, your first media piece that you create yourself, but with our support and direction, and then you share with the group inside the course, and you get direct feedback from other entrepreneurs and business people from around the world and supporting what it is that you're out to create. So hopefully that gives you kind of a clear understanding of how the story part is interlinked with the direct way. The director's way, you also have other opportunities, which MaryKay can tell you about, but we also are full-scale production services. We help, in the last year, we've helped over, I've directed personally over 50, half-hour promotional movies, short documentaries for entrepreneurs and CEOs with our partners at Sales Humanity. We are very much there to provide whatever support you need within different opportunities inside the director's way. I hope that answered that question. There's always more depth, but that's how the story interacts with the director's way.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Let's see if there are more questions. I think most of them you have answered anyhow already. So, and of course, for everyone who is watching or listening later on as well in the recordings, in audio or video, you have all topics and show notes later on, clips and so on the show website, which is heitlandinnovation.com/innovation culture coding. You will find as well links to the offers from Demian, MaryKay, and of course Stephen as well, because Stephen has an amazing business which is all around pop-up retail, and you will find more about that on the website and in the show notes and so on. And just showing that Blair is still on and says thank you very much. So thank you, Blair, for staying to the Q&A. And yeah, having said that, we're at the end of the live stream. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Stephen, for your openness, MaryKay for the introductions, and of course, Demian for the story extraction. I'm really looking forward to see your story later on coming to life, Stephen, and what you do with all of that. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much, and see you in the next live stream.